Administrator Bruno's last day. People are saying it's the end of an era in Albany. How would you describe that era?
Well, it was an era marked by ups and downs for the Republican Party. Joe Bruno, when he first came in, brought a discipline to not only the majority caucus in the Senate, but he brought it to Albany as well. And I was a snarky columnist back then who made a lot of fun of him putting such a priority on getting things started on time and meeting deadlines. And it turned out that that sort of discipline was something that Albany benefited from. He also paid a lot of attention to the suburbs and to upstate voters. And he realized that that's where the party needed to shore up its strength. Ironically, for all the attention they paid, for all the money they poured into Long Island and upstate, certainly upstate they continued to lose seats. And right now, Joe Bruno leaves on the cusp of being the minority leader. So it was a real mixed bag for the Republican Party. He broke new ground in relations, and this is not necessarily good news for taxpayers, but he broke new ground in relations between the Republican Party and big labor. And this was usually labor, the teachers' unions, the healthcare unions, were usually the Democratic Party's purview, and Republicans benefited from big business. But Joe Bruno realized that if he was going to survive, he could not be totally at odds with the political organizations that spend the most money on lobbying. The bad news for conservatives who look to the Republican Party to be the fiscal discipline was that under Bruno's leadership, the Republican Party caved in on most of the big ticket items, and as a result, we have a pretty precarious fiscal situation.
Why do you think Joe Bruno has picked this time to leave? Is it just a matter of him getting older? Is it, as you said, being on the cusp of being minority leader? What are the major factors?
I think the reason that Joe Bruno picked to leave now I think there were several reasons. One is obviously, and I'm not privy to a lot of inside information, but obviously the FBI investigation into his finances. I think that he threw that on the table in hopes that if it didn't go away, at least it wouldn't come down so hard on him. It's unclear whether that's had the impact. The second thing is that he is on the verge of becoming the minority leader. I don't think he wants to have that as part of his legacy. And I think he's smart enough and cares enough about his party and the people in it to know that it did need a little bit of a new direction. It certainly needed new energy and new aggressiveness. And that's the sort of thing that Dean Skelos can certainly bring. I mean, Joe Bruno made some bad candidate selection and issue selection decisions in the last election cycle, especially the election up by Watertown, losing a Senate seat in the most Republican of districts. They picked the wrong candidate, they flogged the wrong issues, and as a result, that's a district that could stay Democrat for at least a few election cycles. And I think that Joe Bruno realized that maybe he's lost the touch. And let's not lose sight. I mean, he's almost 80 years old. And you look at him, and you realize he's probably one of the most vigorous guys in Albany of any age. He rides horses. He runs upstairs. He looks terrific. But, 79 is still 79. And the guy may have realized that he doesn't quite have the energy, the focus to put together, to do all the things that you have to do in this job, which is both governmental and political.
How would you describe his relationships over the years with the governor and his counterpart in the assembly? Was he someone who could reach across the aisle? Was he a negotiator? How would you describe his style?
Joe Bruno was a civil, collegial guy. He was able to deal both with the governor, and he had George Pataki as his governor for most of the time, and he was able to deal with the assembly speaker. In fact, oftentimes Bruno would find himself as a go-between, as a guy who could get people to come together. What was also ironic is that more often than not, he seemed to have well, I wouldn't say more often than not, but often he seemed to have a better relationship with Democrat Sheldon Silver, the Assembly Speaker, than he did with George Pataki, the Republican governor. But this was because He decided that what he would do is what was best for his members, best for his party, and best for his district. Let's not forget, the one biggest beneficiary of Joe Bruno was the Albany, the Capital District, where billions of dollars in state aid was poured in, and to some pretty startling and positive effect.
And following that, of course, we have Dean Skelos coming in, and the question is obvious, what will that mean for Long Island, for the downstate region?
Well, Long Island can only hope that Dean Skelos will pay as much attention to the institutions, places like Hofstra, of course, and others, that Joe Bruno paid upstate. I think the fiscal situation of New York is not quite as robust as it was, and Skelos will be limited by that. Skelos also is going to have to pay an enormous amount of attention upstate. At the same time, he can't alienate New York City voters because he has a few members there, and some of them are the most vulnerable. He's got a one-vote majority. I think Dean Skelos will try to find issues that bring upstaters and suburbanites together without completely alienating New York City. One of them, of course, is property tax cap. Whether it's a cap or a circuit breaker, that's something he's going to have to pay a lot of attention to. Law and order issues are always big in conservative areas and certainly in suburban areas. And of course, school aid. School aid is the issue that cuts across all regional lines, all ideological lines, and you'll see an emphasis on that, again, along with taxation and law and order issues, which is one of the things he's made his mark on.
Do you think, excuse me 1 second. I got an orientation tour. They're taking tours of the studio all day. I sent them down to the radio station, but they're on their way back.
I think we're done. Azzy, I hope that's enough, man. If it's not, give me a call. We can do this again. And I still remember what you said about me replacing Tim Russert. I have a very eerie feeling when you said that now there's an opening. Man, I think about that. Anyways, nobody knows what I'm talking about. Don't put this one on the air. But I will talk to you soon. Bye.